Hey everyone, it's the Captain here, coming to you live from my squeaky office chair. What I wanted to talk about today is something that I think will actually benefit George. So, George, if you're out there listening, listen up. One of the biggest problems with the Gorgeous George show, I think we'd all agree, is the lack of planning. And lack of planning has plagued that show for the entirety of its run. So that's what, 25 or 26 years, something like that. I'm sure he'll post in the comments and remind me how long it's been, and that would be appreciated. So don't forget to do that, George. But the lack of planning is just something that has been really holding the show back. But that's kind of how he's approached everything in his life. Is to just kind of wing it. He's got a job where he can show up and do it when he wants to and not do it when he doesn't want to. And for a TV show, that's probably not the best way to approach it. It's probably not a good way to approach lawsuits either, because there have been like 6 of those, something like that, and he hasn't won a single one. But you can't get in front of a judge with the document written by hand on a slant and turn it in and expect for it to go well. You've got to plan. You've got to take it seriously. Showing up at the courthouse on the day of your trial with no planning, without reading the things that have been sent your way so that you're prepared, you just can't do that. And you can't do that in TV either. And the lawsuits, you found that out the hard way. In TV, there isn't quite the same consequences, the immediate consequences. There would be benefits if the opposite path was taken, which would be to plan. And to that end, I have what you see on the screen here, which is called a rundown. This is something that would, if it was utilized by George for the Gorgeous George show, definitely help. It would make an immediate impact. As most of us will recall, he mocked the planning that went into Insomnia All Night, Will Markland's show. And forgive me if I'm getting the title of that wrong, but that's what I seem to remember it was called. He mocked that. George thought it was hilarious that they actually sat down, discussed what would go in the show, planned what would go in the show, wrote for the show. Because the George way is to roll into the studio 30 seconds before it starts, or 2 minutes after it's already started, and make a big commotion, scream some woos as you saunter onto the set, and just wing it. Maybe you'll dance for 5 minutes. Who knows? You might do it for 15. Maybe you'll take some phone calls. Well, actually, no, of course you're not doing that. But there's no planning. So if you sat down with Kevin or whoever else, I think Kevin quit the show, I can't remember, but whoever's involved, you and Kristen could sit down, there's a thought, and plan what's going to go in the show, what the topics are for the day, exactly how long you're going to dance, because that will leave X amount of time to do something else. And this rundown helps you achieve that. So the way this works is it's compiled by the show's producer. The producer chooses what the content is. In this case, looks like it's a news rundown. So they would pick what stories go in their show. And they know they have X amount of time for their show. It could be an hour, a half hour, however long. And they know that they have X amount of time for their show. And after they determine what's going to be in the show, then they do what's called stacking. And that's means they choose in what order the stories go. So in this case, you can see this rundown in the A column. It has a series of elements and stories. So there's A1, A2, etc., and so on, followed by a break, and then you go into the B block. And so a producer has put all of this together, and the entire crew would get a copy of this, so everyone is on the same page. They all know what's coming. If you are a camera operator, for example, you know that on story A6, there's going to be a push into a two-shot. You can see the duration. You can see who's reading, whether it's a VO, with a voiceover, anything like that. So all the information is packed into here. And the producer would then sit in the control booth next to the director and the technical director, and they will time out the show. They might have to drop a story if something goes long or something like that, but this is all meticulously planned out. Something that would really benefit the Gorgeous George show. I mean, you might get lucky and your show might start to become almost as good as the Van Allen's Attic show. I mean, that would be kind of shooting pretty high for you, but it's possible. And I know you're going to be really grateful that I've shared this with you. So I'll take it a step further. If you have any questions on how to use something like this or what any of this stuff in here means, I'll be happy to answer it for you, because I'm just that kind of guy. Anyhow, that's all I got for you. This is the Captain, signing off.